Well, Sooner Nation, Thunder Nation, we are back. This is the Just Okay Sports Podcast. I am one of your village idiots, Daryl. I'm here with my brother, Jared, aka J Rod. And by the way, when we say just okay sports, we don't just mean average sports. We mean Oklahoma sports. We just mean the podcast is just okay, but we talk Oklahoma sports. That's Sooners football, softball, basketball, all the fun things, and we do some Thunder as well. So that is who we are. And so if you end up liking this thing, please like, subscribe, follow, do all the things, which by the way, especially on Spotify, and we've just started kind of doing YouTube recently. So YouTube is slowly starting to climb. Spotify has really gained some traction. So thank you to everybody.
Daryl's new to this. So you got to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon. So, when we post videos, do the whole thing. You got to know, you got to learn the skit, bro. You got to learn the YouTube skit. There's a script to it.
Okay.
Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. It's like, and then you can put a spin on it. You're a boomer. Let's just keep going. Just get into it. How are you doing, buddy? How's things in Oklahoma? You idiot. I love you.
I don't know how I didn't do what you just said. And then I tried to thank
you were
people
like,
who were liking and subscribing, and you were unhappy about it.
You were like, yeah, I guess you gotta you get passion, bro. We're supposed to be passionate. We're a passionate fan base. Look at Twitter, all right?
Yeah. Look at Twitter. That's one way to say it. Which, by the way, I did notice on Twitter, apparently Hamas was in your backyard, I guess, yesterday or something.
Yeah, I still don't it wasn't on the news, so maybe it was I have no idea. It was for sure gunfire. I walked out with the dogs, and I don't live in a terrible, you see my house. I don't live in a terrible part of town or something. I actually live fairly close to UCF, so it's it's a decent residential neighborhood, whatever. It's not upper class or something, but as much as people, because I sat in the club seats once. But I was I walked outside and I heard that. It was really wild. Yeah, I don't know. I still know what it was. I tried looking it up. Maybe it's been on the news. I looked this morning. I didn't see anything. I was as much it was near war zone levels of firing. So maybe there is a shooting range nearby, but it's indoors. So I'm there's no way I would be hearing an indoor shooting range. So
I don't think so.
Huh. I don't know. Anyway,
maybe they added an outdoor area. Who knows?
I don't know. If they did within the last 2 weeks. But anyway, yeah, and then I've learned that we're gonna get into this a little later because I'll talk about my experience now with it. Florida winters are weird, bro. It's cold in a different way. It's not the cold today, I don't know, it was in the 60s. It's 60, 69. Nice. Outside right now.
Mm-hmm.
But it's it just rain, it's misting all day. So it's you go outside and it's cold. You know what I mean? It's not cold because of temperature, but it's you're just wet, so you get cold.
Right.
And so I had a little experience with that Saturday, which my brother is forcing me, even though I was amped to get this off my chest. He's you're gonna have to wait. You have to wait. This is the things I put up with for brotherly love, But anyway, but yeah, no, things are good. Yeah. So how are things back home? How are things in the Sooner State?
It's all good, man. Other than a kid with a sprained ankle, everybody else is good. Life's good. Can't complain. Had a marathon of a day yesterday, but we survived it, and so yeah, life is really good. And with that, good weekends come when the Sooners get a victory. So let's jump into it, shall we? We had been on a skid of 2 losses. I think everybody was expecting a close game. I think everyone was kind of on pins and needles of what this game would be like. And instead, the Sooners come out with a 59-20 victory where they amassed 644 yards of offense, and 221 yards of it was rushing yards. Let me say that again, rushing yards at 5.3 yards and carry per average. I'd say all in all, it was a pretty good day. And at the last minute, I got tickets and I got to take Tal to the game. So,
I didn't even know you went to the game.
I found out last minute, dude, when we went. And then yesterday, again, I had about 1,000 other things when I was telling you we put it pod and all the things.
I'm gonna send this. When we get this podcast posted, I'm gonna send this to my boy. So his name's Jared. I'm Jared. So I go by J Rod, but everybody calls him Jared. It's a weird thing. Anyway, he's the one that I went to the UCF game with, and we were talking about it. So I want to get your opinion real quick because I know what I feel, but I kind of want to get a little bit of like Sooner Nation's feel. So maybe like comment in
Yeah.
about this. So my boy Jared wants to. The deal we made was like I would go to UCF game and
Hmm.
he would go to an OU game, and we'd go, obviously I'd go to UCF here, and we go to Norman. We're gonna fly to Norman and see a game or whatever. And he was like, let's go to like a 3 o'clock game. And I was like, bro, I honestly I like 3 o'clock's good if you want to like get that mid game and then you want to go to the bars after or do whatever. I was like, but for pure like game day
Hmm.
atmosphere, I'd say night. I'm like, dude, let's go to a six
Yeah.
o'clock kickoff.
Yeah. The atmosphere was great. Fans were great. Um, like it was really good vibes in the stadium. I don't know if he's heard like Gabe Ikard was on his podcast, like kind of going off about do not boo this team if they start slow, those kinds of things. And man, I'm not gonna lie, when West Virginia marched right down the field on the first drive, I was like, okay, this isn't great. But the crowd did not, like, you could tell they were like, okay, we did not expect that, but okay. And dude, they just picked it up and got after it from
I I
there.
I feel like that would be the case. Like I feel like people would have been a lot more discontent if it was the offense had come out first and done 3 and out.
Sure, without a doubt. But still, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. That offense was a hot knife through butter on that first drive. I mean, it looked effortless for West Virginia, and I was very concerned about what the night was going to go like from there. And like I said, then everything turned and went a different direction. But I definitely give a big round of applause to the fans. And I will say, by the end of that game, it was cold. So I had actually gone in with a long sleeve shirt on, and I made the mistake of setting my jacket on our little bench seat, which then fell onto the ground, which then promptly someone spilled an entire beer on. So I had a soaking wet jacket for the rest of the game that I could not wear. So
Smart,
I just
smart.
had to grit and bear it, and it was chilly. Like, not gonna lie, it was cool. But if I was a football player, it was perfect weather.
Can
It
I
went
ask one question about your experience on game day?
yes.
Did you join in on the SEC chants?
When it got to the second go round that they did it after the bad call, and I understood that they were chanting it because of the referees, then yes, I did for that.
Yeah,
Um, but it made me throw up in my mouth a little. Like, I'm not
yeah.
gonna lie. But I understood it was a way of jabbing at the refs. That's the only reason I could do it. If it was because we were beating someone and we were trying to brag about going to the SEC, I'm no, I'm not
Okay,
on board.
can I give an actual? I'm gonna give a little. Can I give just a smidgen of my rant real quick
Yes.
to hit the officiating?
Sure.
Nearly the exact same play occurred in the UCF OSU game again, which I was at
Yes.
right in front of me because we were sitting in zone. It happened like right in front of me. Not even as egregious actually. Like he hooked his arm really clearly. Like it was an egregious penalty, but it wasn't. He didn't tackle him to the ground technically. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they called it. They called it. So
Hmm.
it's possible that OSU gets defensive pass interference calls. Um, but yeah, and it was like funny because even some of the UCF fans, and I'll get to this again in a minute, very gracious. Like one of them leaned over and he was like, "Dude, I don't know how y'all didn't get that last week." Literally a UCF fan.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, and it was brought up. Well, I'm again. You probably watched it, but watching back
yeah,
the playback, the announcers talked about it at nauseum during the game about the reality that it should have been a call the week before. So, well, let's do like we always do. As we start to break this thing down piece by piece, let's start with the negative slash concerns first. And then we'll move into positive. So we end on the sunshine side of things. So I will let you have the floor first since you're amped up tonight. So I'm gonna let you start with the negatives first of what you did not like. And again, it's a 59-20 win, but they're like the reason we do a negative on something like this is just like Brent Venables always says, there is always something to clean up and there is always something to get better, right? So, for your perspective, Jared,
Yeah.
what were the things that came out of this game that bothered you or you thought were negatives?
I'm gonna go with the one that bothered me the most, and that is Andrew Rain.
Uh,
I sent you a picture today, and this was
yeah,
a common thread throughout the game. Now I understand that we still ran for was it 5 whatever yards a clip, right? That's
right.
fine. I cannot count. I lost count of how many times that other defensive linemen were 5, 6, 7, 10 yards down the field, and Andrew Rain standing there just literally jogging, looking around, watching the play go by. Right. And it's just it's a concern. Like that's my biggest concern. And like people are like, okay, you're just really hammering on. It's my concern is how do we not have anybody else? How is there nobody else? Like anybody else that does that is getting benched. That's Beaton both shown that, or Levy or whoever's making the call has showed that we're willing to bench other guys because of those sorts of lacks of effort, if you will. Right. And Andrew Rain, not the case. Like I said, and it was literally maybe I can remember it would probably be easier for me to count the plays that I saw him down the field more than 3 or 4 yards. So it's just a lack of effort. It's like I didn't even think like when I said he had a terrible game. To me, it's one of those effort games. Like he didn't get blown off the ball as much as he usually does or anything like that. I think those sorts of things he did pretty well.
Yeah.
But like one of the hallmarks of good offensive line play, we both played again high school ball, not college ball, but we were a run first team. Even when I was there, it was still run first, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was all about it didn't matter what position you were. If you didn't have the ball, your job was to go down the field and put your hands on somebody. Like that was like rule one. You know, it doesn't matter if it's the 5'1" safety at a piece of crap school, go knock him on his butt. That was your goal. Rain doesn't do that. And like I said, you see him, McCade Matower, you see, I don't even remember. I can't even. I mean, everybody, literally everybody. There was literally one play. All 4 offensive linemen are down the field at a minimum of 6 yards, and Rain is literally at the line of scrimmage, not doing. And it's not like he's not blocking. He's literally staring as the running back runs by.
Yeah.
So that needs to get remedied. And then I guess I'll special teams. I do think. I mean, I know people were really upset with G Freaky about, but I was like, that really wasn't him. He got blocked into. I mean, I still get, the whole thing, and that should have been a penalty because that was the most blatant block in the back I've ever seen in my life, or whatever I guess you want to call it. But, yeah, I mean, the special teams has got to get better. I mean, at least we have a good punter, but like, there's nothing. There's still nothing. We're in we're in week 11 now.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that gives me confidence in our kicking, our place kicking.
Yep.
Right. There's nothing that gives me confidence in our kick returns or our punt returns. Like,
Well, we had one that almost, I mean, there was that one that Farouk came out like a missile. And if that dude doesn't clip his ankle, he's gone.
sure. But I mean, at the same time, you know what I mean? Like, you can look at that one, but it's like, how many times have we also had ones where we're just like, what are you doing? Right. Like, it's definitely the as much as people want to point to the offense and all that, the weakest part of this team right now is the special teams. And it's not got it. It's like, I don't feel like it's got any better to this point in the season. Which again comes down to I don't really know. I would actually maybe that'll be my assignment before next week to go over and figure out like what an analyst can and can't do compared to a coach, because we don't have a special teams coach, we have a special teams analyst.
Right.
So that's maybe something they need to remedy somehow. But I think BV looks at it as a secondary thing, but I think it's one of those things that's like biting them in the butt a little bit. I mean, it's really probably cost you a game this year. So, it's definitely something to look at. So those are my 2 probably like glaring things. And then, really, that's pretty much my big things. I mean, I don't think DG was great in the first half, and I thought there was still a little bit of. I still have some questions about like the personnel choice. It was a lot better. Don't get me wrong. The personnel choice across the board was a lot better this game, but there were still times where I'm like, why is this set on the field right now? You know what I mean? Like there was a couple of plays where you had like Dalen Smothers and Gavin Freeman on the field. Of course, it was towards the end of the game or whatever. It was getting when you're running away with the score a little bit. But still, I was kind of like, why? I don't know. It just felt a little awkward, I guess, to me. So, but those are my things. Those are my really. It's kind of almost hard. This was actually a very good game for you.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a really complete game. I do say special teams. Yes, Gavin dropped the one he got blocked into, which I was really trying to rack my brain for how that works. I know that if you are trying to block someone and they are running through the blocker and they push the blocker into the return guy, that is a legal play. I don't know if you can shove them in the back to do that, if that makes sense, because technically, as the coverage team, they're not blocking, right? So I don't know. I heard a lot of people say he pushed him in the back, and I'm like, I know, but he's not blocking. He's trying to get to the ball carrier. So I don't know about that one, but still, that's not technically on Gavin to some degree, right? But the second one that he dropped and recovered is on him, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, again, just a regression throughout the season with Gavin in special teams. I thought everything else on the night was pretty good. Was not too bad. I mean, we did have the one, but I looked at my son Tal, and there was the one where the guy bobbled the kickoff and then got a big return out to like the 35, 40-yard line. I was like, dude,
Mhm.
what is it about bobbling the freaking ball that if you can pick it up and get going, you're out? And Tal looked right at it and goes, because they're all running after the ball. And so they don't hold their lanes. And I was like, that's my boy. You're right.
Uh, Tal, right here, buddy.
So
Your uncle's proud
um
of you. Your uncle's proud of you.
and so, that one, but again, I think he's right. You see that ball squirt out off his hands and you come out of your lane to hopefully go pick up a ball that might be loose, and the next thing you know, he scoops it right up and he's on the run. So the special teams have been rough, man. I mean, I've tried to defend them, and there have been a lot of bright points this year too. I mean, we've gone through entire seasons without blocking a punt. We went through years without a punt return for a touchdown. We have all that this year. But man, as the year has gone along, it is worse and worse and worse. Um, the first half, and like I know this is nitpicking. I know. But I can tell you right now, especially for those of us in the stadium, the first half of DG's game was not well received by the fans. I mean, there was a guy a section and a half over from me that when it got quiet in the stadium, he is screaming, DG, calm down. Like, because he was missing guys left and right. The Stogner miss was a huge miss. The Drake miss was a huge
Well,
miss. And then again, you know how it is, depending on where you're sitting, you can really watch plays develop when you're in the stadium better than you can on television. And there's
100%.
guys just coming wide open. Now, like for example, go watch the tape on television. The Drake Stoops unbelievable long TD run, dragging guys in the end zone play he had. If you look right behind him, I don't know if it's Farouk or Nick Anderson on that side, but they are gone on the post and they are open one on one. Throw the deep ball, and that's a touchdown right there. Right? It worked out. Drake was open, don't get me wrong, but there were plays like that all day. The back of the end zone play early to Stogner. Stogner is waving his hands as soon as he comes out of his break. DG just runs and runs and runs and runs and runs and runs before he finally throws it to him. And then he's way off target, on it. He had some bad moments of just not seeing the field, not hitting guys. And again, I don't think West Virginia is a great team. I understand that they had played their best games the last couple of weeks, but let's not try and convince ourselves that this is some kind of big Big 12 championship contending team,
Right.
and so you can get away with that stuff in this game. But if you play one of these teams down the stretch, it's on a heater, or you make it to the conference title game, you cannot do that. Like, you cannot have these moments. And I mean, we're 2 years in, so that's probably just who he is. But that was mine. And then I agree with you on the Rame stuff. Overall, did Rame have a good game? Yes. But dude, finish a block. That's all we're saying. I think that's what you're like. Go, and then if nobody comes in your zone, once the ball clears, go try and find somebody and put a hat on them. Make
See,
somebody feel you every play, and he just doesn't do it.
so we had, and you know, it reminds me, maybe this is again high school football coming out of me. We had a coach, he did it in the secondary too, but they use it all the time. If you were out standing out in the field all by your lonesome during a play, they called you Space Cadet, and you got called Space Cadet, and that was not a badge of honor because they'd be like, "What are you doing? You're out in the middle of space, ain't nobody around you, you're just being a Space Cadet," and that was Rame for a lot of this game. I mean, again, I don't think it an egregious game. It's just like you said, it's the effort thing. I just want to see that. It's like I know that's nitpicking, and maybe it's because I see potential in him, and I want him to reach that. And you know, maybe it's some of the attitude things that we've heard, but yeah, I mean, it's just go put your hands on somebody, dude. Just go, literally, just go. It's the thing is, if you think about it, if you have I don't even know what Rain weighs, like 300 pounds, whatever he weighs. I don't think he weighs that much. Two, whatever. It's like, dude, if you
No,
go and
he's
just
three.
knock.
He's like 305, 306, I think.
So yeah, but I mean, you go put a linebacker on his butt with a 300-pound dude, that linebacker is going to get worn out. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing is like that linebacker is going to not want you to put your hands on him, is going to give up on a play. Like, you know what I mean? That's the physicality you want to see. And like I said, you saw that from that's really where you started to see the rest of this offensive line shine. So anyway,
Yeah.
positives.
305. Yeah. Let's move into the positives and the uptick of everything. And I'll go first on this one. I think the number one thing that I saw in this game that really encouraged me, more so than the run game, more so than Gavin Sawchuk and all things, was the defensive line. We'd been saying it for 2 weeks. They were so scared especially the UCF, sorry, Central Florida and the
No,
Kansas
I'm gonna go
game.
UCF. I'm gonna go UCF.
They were so scared of the QB run game, they just caught blocks. And they just tried to stay in a lane and just create a wall, but they got no knockback and no push whatsoever. And in this game, they were playing behind the line of scrimmage. And by the way, the guy that no one is talking about that had a heck of a game is Rondell Bothroyd. That guy was driving his guy all over. Does he have a sack? Nope. I think he may have had 1.5 tackles for loss maybe in the game, but he affected the game on a huge level. One of the interceptions is Bothroyd putting pressure on Green and Green letting it fly and then it getting tipped and intercepted. But that's the D line that we have to see. That's the D line and the way they need to play, regardless of who the quarterback is. That's how they need to play, not this coming off the ball and just standing up straight and just trying to hold the line. They need to push the line backwards every single game. They did that this game.
But can I ask you, because I feel like we've talked about like what could BV do? I mean, it's the same for every coach, but what is BV going to do when he has some of these elite D linemen that are supposedly that are right now in the boat for them? And I think you saw it like the first drive versus the rest of the drives, right? Like that first drive, they got pushed around a little bit. And then they corrected, and then like you said, they started pushing back. And I really think when you look at it, that's the difference between this team being undefeated and like the more I really watched this game, because I watched the whole game back, I feel like that may be the difference between this team being undefeated and having 2 losses is the defensive line playing more aggressive.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it definitely would have helped them in the
play
Kansas
calling
game
helps too, but yeah,
sure. But no, they played great. It was really, really cool to watch. I think the second thing for me that was a huge positive was the youth, man. I mean, when you look across, especially on defense, but when you look across there, Kip obviously stepped in a second week in a row. And dude, I don't know if you've listened to Teddy and Gabe's podcast yet. He was doing all he could to strongly compliment the difference the linebackers looked with Kip and Stutzman on the field compared to Kanik without just dunking on Kanik. And again, you and I have both said it. I think Kanik's going to be a very good player, but he's still a little bit behind in his development.
Kip reminds me, I'm going to draw a comparison. I know that this physically may not fit, but it's just the way he plays, like the attitude he has. Rufus Alexander. where he's very
Yeah.
much like, because there was a number of plays where if you watch back, there's like a play where he's covering the edge and the play goes the other direction and he's still flying that way to the ball and ends up getting
Yeah.
close to making a play on the ball. You know what I mean? Like he's
Yeah.
just one of those guys that's got that motor that is just
Yeah.
otherworldly.
He had a fantastic game. RSJ, like, I know it's hard with those anthracite uniforms to read the numbers, but there's 3 or 4 plays, man, that because I was in the stadium, I know that who it was because I could see it a little bit better. On TV, you can't tell who it is at all. Dude, he laid wood on people a lot in this
He on that
game, and
punt
he did.
on the punt return textbook.
Yeah, yeah. Just Bowen obviously played a lot this game, looked great. Kobe almost with the interception, lots of tackles in the game. And the other guy that flashed, I wouldn't say it was just another worldly game, but dude, I finally saw with my own eyes why the coaches are so excited about our Mason Thomas. Dude, there's a play, and I'm in the stadium, and I see what I think is a linebacker or one of our safeties moving to his left, and then the play spills back out the other side, to their right. And man just puts a foot in the ground and takes off and chases it down. And I was like, dude, is that RSJ? Like, I'm trying to figure, and I'm going, oh my God, that's R. Mason Thomas that just did that. Like, for a guy his size, his movement is unbelievable. And so again, I didn't even realize until later watching it back, Samuel Masigo played some at Cheetah in this game and looked good. Just again, the numbers were so hard to see, especially in the stadium, but the youth on the defense looked incredible and just makes you so hyped for the future of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that player unity. I don't know how they haven't seen the field all season. They played so incredible. No, it was well, you're not wrong. I mean, the youth is you're starting to see why. I still don't think we're going to come into the SEC and dominate or anything absurd, right?
No.
But I do think the trajectory is for OU to be a contender in the SEC.
Again, I think the D line's going to be fine. I think the linebackers are going to. I think the defense is going to be fine. The O line is going to be the difference. I think our wide receivers will match up fine. We have to figure out that O line for next year, especially if Guyton goes. With Rouse leaving, there's a chance Rame could leave. There's a chance, or not a chance. McKay Mattower will definitely be gone. So all those things. So, anyways, those are my 2 biggest ones. How about you?
So I'm going to piggyback off one of our negatives because I do agree with you. Like we saw with Dylan in the first half, where I agree with you. While people are going to be like, he put up record numbers and all that, I agree with you. Overall, he had a great game. But the first half, you did see there was a couple of those plays where like he airmailed because he's just trying to throw the ball 5,000 miles an hour. Like he's just trying to throw it as hard as he can, and it sails on him. You saw that with Stogner. You saw that with Stoops. And then again, you saw that indecision. It's like a weird thing where it's the middle of the field for him. There's a play where it's hard to see on TV, but it looks like I think it was Nick or somebody was coming across the middle on on a slant or whatever. And he looks open on TV. Again, it's hard to tell, but you could see him like kind of like double clutch, like looking at him. And it's just those sorts of things. However, he progressively got better in the game. He corrected. He slowed down his throw. He wasn't trying to, play in the World Series, just throwing the ball how he should. And you know what? Applause to DG when Stoops went down in the end zone on that hit, and the guy stood over him and all that. He was the first guy over there in the dude's face.
Yeah.
Like, bravo. All the things I said about your leadership. I am sorry, DG. You proved me wrong. And you know what? Just a real quick shout out, McKay Mattower. By the way, the president of the university fist bumped you because he agreed with you that much. Which, by the way, if you watch the replay of it, it's pretty Bush League that he was the one that got penalized out of all of that happening. The only one that got penalized. When West Virginia players were drawing the whole way to the sideline. And apparently, I don't know. I wasn't obviously in the stadium. The commentators had said It was because of what he said and did to, or what he said to West Virginia players and refs going off the field or something. And I'm like, bro, like I understand you're trying to control the game, but like West Virginia had like 10 players doing that. But anyway, just I love to see. And you know what? There was a play where Stutzman, they ended up having to call time. I was in the first half. Stutzman is trying to tell, I think it was, oh, who was it? Was it Coe? It was Coe. He was trying to tell Coe what the play was, I guess, and there was miscommunication. They had to call a timeout. And Coe gets like, and I think Danny was telling him, like, you should have been
No,
down.
by the way, I heard Teddy say that. He is incorrect. It's Kobe. Kobe and Co.
Oh, was it
almost
Kobe?
go to
Okay.
blows. And then Danny jumps into it. And then him and Co start. But like Danny, whether he was calming Co down or sticking up for Kobe, who knows? Right. But
Yeah.
Kobe was the one telling him, he was telling Co to move to a gap. And then we ended up calling timeout, and Co turned around and was telling him, "You are wrong." And I mean, they were getting after it, and
Look,
Danny
that's
came over and broke it up.
like, it's really weird to say you want your guys fighting. I don't want them fighting, but it's like to show that level of amped up that it kind of felt like we didn't
Yes.
see the previous 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
That aggressiveness and that so I really love seeing that. And then like I said, I guess I'll piggyback off what you said. There was finally I was proud in the young players, but in the same sense, and I guess I'm kind of arguing the opposite of what I said earlier. There was times in the game where the personnel, it's like, okay, you're putting some young players in there to give them enough time to play that they're getting the feel for the game. You're not putting it was frustrating seeing them put, Petaway out there for a play, and then he pulled him and he doesn't play the rest of the game. It's like, okay, well, you're burning his red shirt for nothing, right? Like,
Yeah.
you played him in the game and he's not getting any actual experience that's going to matter in the end of things. So the same with there's a lot, Vickers played a lot, which I think Vickers went out, but I think he came back in. I don't know, I can't remember.
I don't think he did.
Either way,
But
you had a
again,
lot of,
it's so hard to tell. I love the anthracite uniform. I do. I just hate that you cannot read those numbers
I
at
feel
all.
like I don't know what the stats are when we've used them at night. I guess this is only the second year we've had them, isn't it? The second or third year.
Yes. Yes. Second. We had them
Yeah, so
last year was the first year.
yeah, I feel like maybe it's a little bit better in the day, but anyway, yeah, I agree. It's hard, very, very hard to tell. Like I would be like, that person has a single digit number and that person has a double digit number. That's all I can tell you. And Freya agrees with me. But yes, you finally got to see some young people play, and it made sense how you rotated them. You let some guys get some run. I also like that you saw Sawchuk. I've been saying since like week 2, put somebody out there and let them run the ball. Like, let Sawchuk get rolling, let him get comfortable, let him get that contact, and let him get the confidence built up that he can make plays. And we finally saw it. And kudos to Sawchuk. There was the one run that impressed the hell out of me where he drug defenders, because he's not a big dude, right? Like, Sawchuk's not he's not 6'2" and 230 pounds, right?
Right.
And he was dragging dudes with him, and he was just pumping. And I told people, I was like, that again comes down to effort. That's just a running back pumping his legs and just driving for every yard he can get. And he ended up getting like 5 or 6 extra yards. It was nuts. So you're finally, I think just overall, you're finally, at least in this game, you saw them again get back to that gritty attitude, that aggressive and physical and don't back down attitude that we haven't seen, like I said, in 2 weeks. So yeah, I mean, there's so much good to go over, but those are my things. And then, like I said, I guess last ball, because he set a record. DG, hey, compliments, dude. I love that you got in the guy's face. I'm glad you're backing up Stoops, by the way. Did you see the account that's tweeting about how Drake's only there? He's tweeting Drake's only there
The
because
Lost
his
Ogle?
dad.
Yeah, I saw
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I commented
Yeah.
on that today.
Yeah. The dude that just had the most reception yards on the entire team. He's just there because of his dad. Yeah. You freaking moron. So yeah, it was a great game. It was, like you said, I
think we need to pause and say also positive Jeff Levy. I thought the game he called was great, obviously, but I mean, he really did. you just have to give him his flowers for that. After all the heat he's taken and all the different things, I thought that they played a solid game. But again, also, it's fair to say, and we said this going in the game, just win a turnover battle. Just win a turnover battle and see the difference that it makes. And it obviously makes a big one. And then, like you said, back to the defense. I think the other thing we got to give up. Yet this is what the third time this year that this defense has had a team that's had a first and goal from inside the 5-yard line and has held them out of the end zone.
Which, by the way, that we did get a call go our way because that I'm pretty certain that first run, that first down
Yes.
run looked like it was a touchdown, but I don't think they had enough evidence.
Yeah, they did not, but it
Regardless,
probably
still
was.
impressive. Still impressive. Not taking
Still,
away from
you
them.
got to go 2 more, 3 more plays on the 1-yard line, holding them out of there, and you do. I mean, that's all you can hope for, right? So, I mean, those little moments in the game were incredible. Drake was incredible. Neil Brown saying he's an NFL wide receiver was awesome in his post game. The dude's just balling, man. He's in his zone right now, and was just really, really, really
I mean,
cool to see.
he had me, dude. The guy, I don't care what Drake does. Drake following daddy's footsteps at some point and be a coach. You had me ready to run through a brick wall with your, I don't care if we were undefeated or we're 0-8, that whole speech. I know we already talked about that, but dude, guys
Yeah,
gets it. The guy is a culture guy. I love it. So
yeah,
yeah,
100%. And like I
lots of
said earlier too, the crowd, dude, like, dude, at halftime, when those refs came off the field and went through their little tunnel to their little space back there or whatever, holy cow. That place let them know it that they had botched a couple calls down the stretch of that first half. And they let them feel it the whole way into the tunnel. It was pretty
let's
intense.
I'm also going to I'm gonna jump back real quick because I wanted to mention it. Levy, I am very happy. Very, very good play calling. I would no complaints. The one thing I do have a complaint with is Sooner Nation. Look, guys, I'm not against having the jet sweep. I'm not. Don't run it 15 times in a game, but you can run it. Like, you have to set it up and you have to let it set up other plays. But I'm so tired of, like, I saw people on Twitter when we ran one with Fruke, and it was funny. It went for like 10 yards. And people were
Yeah.
like, well, the jet sweeps back. And I'm like, it's not like you guys are trying to hyper focus on something, and the jet sweep is not the problem. It's
Right.
everything you do around the jet sweep, right?
Yeah.
Like if you run the jet sweep 15 times in a row, they're gonna stop it and you're gonna look like an idiot. And then you can complain about a jet sweep. But anyway, my thing is I'm fine with it. Levy, you did a great game. I hope that we see this because I'm going to be honest with you. My nervousness is that he's going to lay an egg again because he called
Yeah.
brilliant games before and then turned right around and been like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, I'm very excited to see if he can keep that rolling. I think BV and him had a little bit of a coming to Jesus is how I feel. But
Yeah, I don't know about that, but it was a great game, great play, and again, is a great response by the team as a whole, and definitely showed that they're not quitting and they're not done, and they even got a little help this weekend, right? So there's a lot that still has to fall their way to make a Big 12 championship game, but the door is definitely open. So they just need to worry about taking care of business, and hopefully they will. So speaking of taking care of business, we made some picks of last week. And so let's find out how that went for us, shall we? We picked the Michigan Penn State, OSU Central Florida game, the Tennessee Mizzou game, the USC Oregon game, Ole Miss Georgia, and West Virginia Oklahoma. And let's see, Penn State Michigan. I got that one right. Jared misses. We both get the Central Florida game right. We both miss on Tennessee. We both miss on the Ducks because the stinking USC Trojans came back and covered that game at the very, very end of the game. And then Ole Miss, Georgia. I got the Georgia pick of that. You went with Ole Miss. And then West Virginia, Oklahoma, we both missed. We both picked West Virginia to cover. So
I'm picking against OU the rest of the season if that's going to be how they come
yeah.
out. I don't care if I lose our pick'ems. But yeah, we did.
So 1-5 for Jared, 3-3 for me this particular week, which just gives me a 2-game edge after going down one game last week in the standings. So still plenty of ball left to go. And let's be real, I had like a 4-game lead on you after week 1, and you came back to take the lead, so
Yeah,
it can
I'm just giving you a
always
little bit of
change.
hope just to tear it away again. I'm gonna rip it from your hands. Yeah. So by the way, speaking of spreads, I'm gonna give a shout out to my boy Jared. Right. We go to the UCF game. All right. Can I just roll into my rant? I'm sorry. I'm not even
Yeah, go to
asking.
your rant. Go. You've
Rolling
been
into my
dying
rant.
to get to this
We need to
rant.
make this a segment where J Rod rants about something. Okay. So my boy, Jared, he calls me like I moved to Orlando, right? He's a UCF grad, right? I'm gonna say UCF. You know what? Kudos. By the way, before we get into the rant, honestly, phenomenal fan base. In the stadium, I've talked about how people like at the grocery store are so cringe and all that. At the stadium, I had people walking up because I was like, the only football stuff I have is OU. Right. So I told my boy, I was like, I'm gonna wear OU stuff. Like I'm gonna wear football gear, but I'm gonna wear OU stuff. That's what I got. And go to the game. People came up to me from UCF. Hey man, like, hey, it was a good game a couple weeks ago, whatever. Like extremely friendly. I literally had people stopping me to talk to me about it and be like, we were in Norman. It was really great. You guys were really hospitable. Everything. So I'll call you UCF. Their tailgating, top notch, really. I mean, it's probably not SEC level, like as far as like, you go look at like Tennessee or Ole Miss or whatever. Excuse me. But still top notch. It wraps all the way around the stadium. There's a ton of people there. The flyover was nuts. They had a Globemaster flyover.
Nice.
And then the dude like flew over the stadium and like banked. Like I'm talking about like, I was like, dude, this guy's gonna crash. Like you're flying a freaking cargo plane like it's a fighter jet. Which they were like, he came on the field, of course, in the game, and they're like, oh, he used to be an F-15 pilot. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, so now the rant. OSU fans, you know why your fan base is considered little brother and why everybody says you have a little brother mentality? Because people go to a game and you approach them out of your way to come over. Like I literally had a woman come over to me, not sober. She appeared to be sober, right? Can't hide behind Jack Daniels or something or Bud Light. Came over to me and said, "You freaking losers." And I was like, I turned around, I was like, what? And she was like, you guys lost. How does it feel? And I was like, sure, congrats. Like, what do you want me to say? Oh man, I couldn't, I was out there blocking for Dylan Gabriel and we just lost the game. Like, what do you want me to say? Okay, so that was rule one. I had a lot of people glaring at me and OSU stuff, whatever. Like, I'm fine. Okay, cool. We beat UCF and UCF fans are telling me how great we are, right? I literally had UCF fans going Boomer Sooner. But you have such a little brother mentality. You're going out of your way, right? So we go into the stands. We sit in the game. It comes a downpour. And I'm talking about literally the equivalent of like I'm standing in the shower, fully clothed.
I
That's
saw
what
it
it
on
was
TV,
like.
dude. It looked intense.
I was dripping. I mean, literally, like it was to the point where I was having to like wipe my eyes. There was so much water running down my face. So I go down to the concourse. We're watching on a TV about the size of a freaking toaster oven, right? And everybody's down there, like pretty much the whole stadium's down in the concourse. An OSU fan comes over to me, and now he was younger. He was probably like somewhere between 18 and 21, right? Like he's probably in college, but very young in college. Comes over to me and goes, excuse me. And I go, yeah. And he goes, why are you here? And I go, I'm sorry. And he goes, well, like I'm OSU fan and he's a UCF fan. What are you doing here? And I go, I'm just watching football. And he was like, oh, okay. So that's it. That's all you're doing. And I was like, yeah. And then he like huffed and walked away. And I was like, what? Like why do that? And so then we walk past them and he goes, there's the guy stealing signs. Maybe he's joking, but I'm also like, you're a moron. I'm sitting in the concourse watching on a freaking TV from 1998 and I'm stealing signs. That's what's happening, you moron. Like I've never in my life, have you ever in your life gone to somebody who's wearing gear affiliated with a team that's not playing and been like, why are you here, dude? What are you doing? Huh?
Well, I will say, when you and I you came and helped me move to Massachusetts, and we went to a March Madness game, and it just so happened we weren't even planning to go. Remember, like pulled into town, went, there's a game tonight. We got on and looked, there's $10 tickets. So we were like, we're going to a March Madness game. Let's go. And all of us had OU gear on just for the travel sake of things and comfort. So we show up to the game in Oklahoma hats and gear and everything. And they all go, you guys aren't in this bracket. And we were like, yeah, we know. And then they were like, why are you here? And it's like, it's college basketball. So, I mean, I can
But then we,
somewhat understand the
but then
confusion
those
of people.
people. But if you recall, then those people let us go take a picture with the national championship trophy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was like a friendly. It wasn't like I'm going to scoff at you and be like, "Why are you here?" Like, you know what I mean? Like it was just a whole off-putting thing. I was rooting so hard for UCF, and you know what? The other thing, it's a small stadium. I think it's like capacity. I don't know what it is, like 40,000. It wasn't filled. But dude, like it's like an aluminum, like the high school stadiums are made out of. It's made out of like the same bleachers, pretty much. And they like jump and stomp, and like literally you can feel the stands like bouncing. And I was like, dude, this is
Nice.
about to collapse. I was like, in my head, I'm thinking like it was moving enough that I was like, in my head, I'm thinking like, I really hope Daryl has all like my will information and life insurance stuff because I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be in a pile of rubble in a minute. But really for what it is, very loud. They're very rambunctious, and very friendly. Like I said, I literally had no UCF fans say anything mean or rude to me. Most of them stopped me and like try to talk to me about being a Norman or how the season was going and all that sort of stuff. So like I said, shout out to UCF, but OSU fans, I'm sorry. Nothing about my experience, and maybe it's just your travelers. I don't know. I know plenty of OSU fans that are pretty chill, but like you're traveling people, sit down and have a talk, right? Like I'm not there. I literally was going. I told my boy Jared, I said, I'm gonna go. I said, I'm gonna sit down and watch the game. I'm not gonna cheer because I've got my boy Brady. I've got friends that I know at OSU. You're a UCF
Right.
guy. I'm just gonna be the neutral party, right? I'm just gonna sit here and watch football like I was sitting at home watching it on TV. And by the time kickoff happened, I was cheering very much for UCF. So, but again, you're not going to break that OSU. If you wonder why you have the little brother moniker, that's the things that happen. I don't go up to if I see an OSU fan, an OU game, I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, I just have it's never crossed my mind to approach somebody and be like, why are you here? Go out of my
Yeah.
way. Like, if I'm sitting in the stands next to you, cool. Right. I might be like, hey, man, like, you're OSU, man. What are you doing here? Right. But like, literally walking out of your way to find me, that's why you're your little brother. So, anyways,
Yeah.
you hate to see them get their butts kicked, but more than that, you love to see it. But yeah,
For sure.
it was a great game. A UCF played lights out, and just honestly, it's like the QB problems, I guess, are not resolved, and which really, honestly, I won't even put it down to the QB. It was the receivers just were not. The ball popped up in the air like 4 times. I don't know how many interceptions they ended up with, but it was a lot of, you could see that he was a little bit slower. It was the same thing we're talking about. He got slow reading the middle of the field and was
Yeah.
delayed, and that's what caused some of those plays to happen. But anyway, so fun game to go to. Honestly,
Crazy.
if you're ever in Orlando, go try to catch a game.
Awesome. Awesome stuff. Other things around college football came down, I believe, today that Jimbo Fisher is out at Texas A&M. And look, this has been swirling for a minute. I just don't understand the timing. Like, you just got a 50-point win in the SEC and you fire your coach. Like, literally, when you texted that to me, I had no idea that it happened. And so I started looking it all up, and I was like, did they lose to Mississippi State? Is that what happened? Like, I didn't
Well,
even check to
what's
see.
funny? The funny thing is Mississippi State fired their coach too.
Yes.
I don't
So
know.
again, it just doesn't make sense. Like, obviously, there's two things. It's a $76 million buyout, so they got to find the
No,
money. One,
74 million is what I read.
74. Sorry, $70+ million buyout. Okay, and then two, though, it makes me wonder: do they already have somebody in the boat to take over?
I've
Which,
heard
if that's the case, my thought would be Urban Meyer. because that's the only guy that can take the job right now.
Yeah, I know Teddy apparently hinted that he thought maybe it was Lincoln. I was like, Lincoln's not going to come back to the SEC after he ran from OU to get away from the
Yeah,
SEC.
no, it's not. If it's Lincoln Riley, I'll give him his flowers, but no, it's not Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, Urban Meyer, which that guy will do wonders for the culture. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be somebody big. It's such a weird, like you said, he blows somebody out. We've heard this rumbling all season, right? Pretty much this was like from my view of it, like I don't have the inside information, but it was like the remember the Titan scenario of if he doesn't go undefeated, he's getting canned. So he was pretty
Yeah,
much, done by week 2 or whatever. But just a weird set of events. I don't understand. So yeah, I would be surprised if there's not, but you also have to look at it. Maybe they're just trying to get ahead of things because like you have a lot of openings. You have the DC spot at USC opening up, which
yeah,
think of that what you will, but there's plenty of coordinator spots that are going to be open or coming open. You have a lot of up and coming coaches. Like you have Leopold at Kansas that I know a lot of people are trying to poach.
yeah.
And things like that. So maybe they're just trying to get to where that they can start actually saying, like, look, we've moved on. Now we're ready to come after whoever it is. Maybe it's Urban, could be anybody. I'll
Yeah,
tell you what,
maybe.
Leopold going to A&M,
Leipold.
Leipold. Yeah, sorry, Leipold. Dude, that's kind of terrifying, honestly.
It really is because I do think he built culture there and all those things. But again, they can't make an announcement for weeks. The only thing I can think about this, because that's been one of the things that's been discussed even with USC, right? Is there's even been USC fans saying, don't fire Grinch right now because he has got some pretty good recruits coming in. Wait till you get past the signing period and then can him, right? Obviously, A&M continues to recruit at a super high level. Um, and so it just makes me feel like they have to know who it is they're hiring and they're trying to get this done so they can announce it and try to hang on to this class because they've got talent, dude. Terry Bussey's real. Dominic McKinley is for real. And
Which
there's others in
he
there.
did a couple of them did tweet like some cryptic things. So I don't know, like not that
Well,
they know the
McKinley
coach.
didn't. McKinley said he's ride or die with the D line coach of A&M. He basically said, I'm attached to that dude. So whoever
Okay.
hires him is getting me. It's basically what he said. There were definitely others that were like, well, we're going to see what happens, right? I would definitely say, and look, we're not throwing something out there that's exclusive to us on information, right? But David Hicks is the name that you keep hearing might be jumping to the portal and could really be looking OU's way to get out of there with all the changes coming. So we'll see what happens with that and what comes of that. But just crazy news. And then of course USC drops another one. I don't think any of us are surprised by that. But they dropped another one. But uh, man, it'll be very interesting to see how Lincoln
Did you
handles
watch
it. How he? Oh, go ahead.
did you stay up and watch the game?
I watched about 3/4 of it. Which, I mean, I will say this: kudos to USC, man, because we were driving home from the game, and the stat came over the radio that Bo Nix was 2 for 2 for 161 yards to start the game,
Yep.
and I was
Yeah, it
like,
was
dude, this game
their
over.
their defense, if anything, I might say it was the best thing that could have happened to Alex Grinch because now the defense looks worse without him. But yeah,
But
I
they
mean,
stepped up after that. I mean, you spot 14 points in the first 3 minutes of that game, and then you hold them to the 36 from there on out. For what that defense has been this year, I mean, they had a shot down the
hey,
stretch, right?
look, dude, they're close. They're not that far off. They're not
Oh
that far
gosh,
off. That was his quote.
that's
Not
all
that
he
far
kept
off.
saying in the post game. We are so close. We are so close. We are
No, he
so
said he no
close.
no no
Like,
no. He's progressed. Not that far off is what he says now. We're not that far off, which is
yeah,
close. Yeah, it's a it was I honestly though watching the game, actually stayed up and watched it all. I was exhausted the next day, but that freaking Pac-12 after dark.
yeah,
Living on the East Coast life. But I will say that like after like watching it, it felt like Oregon dominated a lot more than the scoreboard said. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but again, Caleb Williams, I don't care what people say. Caleb Williams is still one of the top 3 players in college football. He's a phenomenal
Yes.
athlete. He's a phenomenal quarterback. And that's the only thing I can say is you're what, they're 7-4 now. I think 7-4.
Yeah.
And you are 7-4 with one of the top 3 players in the country. So,
And maybe 2 of the top 10 players in the country with Branch as well.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
that dude is electric, right? So yeah, man, it is fascinating to see what's happening over there. And man, and kudos to Dan Lanning, who supposedly is another name that's being mentioned at A&M. He's got that program rolling and doing some great things. He's obviously been a really, really good hire for Oregon. And so again, just be interesting to see what happens with Lincoln and all those things as it all moves forward. So that's kind of college football in a nutshell. We're going to move off of college football and move on to uh, NBA basketball and a little Thunder talk, shall we? So the Thunder are now 6-4. They are 5th in the Western Conference, which is a pretty darn good place to be. And again, one game in particular, a call goes your way, really could be 6-3, but either way, a 6-4 start is pretty impressive. And the other night was a very impressive win for the Thunder to go and to beat the Phoenix Suns 111-99. Big win for them. And just, I mean, that's a talented team in Phoenix. They might not be the deepest team, but they are definitely stacked with talent. And I felt like you just continue to see this team grow. And if it tells you anything, it is interesting to realize and to think through the reality that Josh Giddey right now literally might be the 4th, and I could even argue he is the 5th best player on the squad right now. And that is a wild stat. And that's not to say that Josh Giddey is playing bad or that he shouldn't be playing or any of those kinds of things, but just to say a guy that we were all so high on at the end of last year with this roster with Chet in there, now playing his rookie year. We all always knew Shea was better. J-Dub has taken his game to another level, so he's playing incredible as your 3. And dude, you cannot look past what Lou Dort is doing on this squad at all either. I mean, he is making this team really good and playing highly efficient basketball for this squad. And it is really, really fun to watch. And in this Phoenix game the other night, you got Shea dropping 35 points in the game on 13 of 22 shooting. I mean, which is crazy. Now, Josh Giddey, while he may not have scored as much, had 10 assists in the game. Like that's what you're wanting him to be, right? You're wanting him to be the setup guy. You're wanting him to be the facilitator guy, all those kinds of things. And he did that the other night really, really well. Just to give you some other guys in the game, J-Dub, 31 points in that game, and Chet with another 18-point performance, 3 of 6 from three-point range. J-Dub goes 3 of 4 from three-point range. And Dort's worst game of the night with 9 points on the night, 1 block and 2 steals on the night, but he goes 0 for 5 from three-point range, which probably dropped him down into the, I don't know, 50% on the season, 3-point shooting, because he has just been playing out of his mind with his shot production.
Yeah. And by the way, sorry for everybody that's wondering why J-Rod went quiet for a few minutes there. Apparently there's a bear just outside the neighborhood. So my dog is now in the other room barking. So hopefully it's not outside. So I had to bring they literally had rangers. That was a ranger knocked on my door and told me there was bears in the neighborhood. So anyways, I had to bring my trash can.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So, I said, by the way, get backing on this. I had to look it up. Dort now is shooting a very cold 47.9% from three-point range after going
horrible.
0 for 5.
Trade him.
Right.
Trade him. Like send him to the G League. Yeah, it's wild. Okay, so here's a crazy thing. I was talking to my boy again, Jared. He's a big Sixers fan also, right? And I said, what would you do if like the Thunder and the Sixers met in the playoffs somehow? And he was like, never gonna happen. He's like, he didn't think it's happening. He's like, y'all are still like two. He's like, y'all are 2 or 3 years away. And I was like, I really think a lot of the league's sleeping on how quick this team might surprise people. I don't think this is the year that they're gonna be like a crazy threat. But it's like, I honestly think if they progress the way they should, with how they're playing already this season, I know it's a small sample size. Dude, next year might be the year that you start really making noise, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah, I think next year could be the year, without a doubt. I mean, look, the question is just going to be how much more does J Dub develop? How much more does Chet develop? But now also next season, I believe is the year that some of these contracts start coming up. And
Right.
that is going to be a major factor as well. So, what goes into all that? Does we keep saying this? Is this year, next year, whatever going to be the year where Sam Presti shoves all those picks he's got into a player that ends up on the market because the team decides they want to rebuild. You ship 4 first round picks out of the 17 of them that you got, and you pull in a guy that now elevates the team even more. I mean, look, you keep drafting guys like Case and Wallace. I mean, okay. Even Usman Jang has played really well this year, right? Like a very good role player on this team. But you keep drafting J Dubs and Case and Wallace's and Chet Holmgrens over the next couple years. I mean, good lord. Now Chet, obviously top 2 pick, he should be that. You're getting Jalen Williams at 12, right? You're getting Case and
Mhm.
Wallace in that 10 to 15 rate. Like you keep doing that,
It's
guy. You're
well, and it's and
you're
that's
in a
what
good
like
spot.
that, and that's the one thing is I really want to see, and that's another discussion that I had with him was who would they go after? Because he's like a lot of the very like the superstars, most of the superstars in the leagues are pretty much tied up with their team, right? Like, you're not gonna get like a Lillard or Giannis or anybody like that, or you're not gonna get,
Right.
whoever. Like those are the 2 superstars that came to mind. They're playing together, so they're not gonna leave, right? So what are you gonna do? And I was like, I don't know, but it's like Sam Presti, dude. The dude's made moves where you're just like when he was it, yeah, it was not this last drive, but the one before where he just absolutely fleeced. I don't remember who it was, but
The
it's like, bro,
Clippers.
he robbed them of like I was like, I don't understand how he convinced somebody to do that. The man is a genius. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's wild, but man, it's a fun. Granted, they've only had one nationally televised game so far this year, but it's just fun basketball to watch. It is not the same as the Splash Bro teams that won championships as far as the 3-point shot goes, but it is the same in the amount of cutting and movement without the basketball on the floor, which lends to a fun product to watch, right? Because it's not dribble the ball up, run a pick and roll to get your isolation play, and then somebody dribble out to the half court and just dribble in and go one-on-one basketball. It is movement, 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 pass, 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 pass. I mean, they are all over the place. And Troy had been saying it forever. They are trying to find decision makers at every single position. They are trying to find ball handlers at every single position, and they have. And it is really reaping some benefits. And I would even say this team is a little ahead of schedule for what we thought they should be right now. And it's a blast to watch. So
yeah,
really
they've
fun.
been
And
fun.
with that, if you enjoy watching the Thunder, don't forget in December, we got to vote for a new stadium if you live here in Oklahoma City. And you need to vote yes on this. Like, again, I'm going to say it on this podcast until that vote comes. And I obviously, if you're taking the time to listen to a sports podcast, you probably are in the same boat with us, and we get that. But you've got to spread the word to other people too. The impact on the city economically is huge. And if you really believe that the Thunder won't leave just because Clay Bennett's the owner, because of all this, you have to understand that other owners have a say in that as well, of where a team plays or doesn't play. And look, that's how we pulled this franchise here out of Seattle because
Yeah.
they refused to make the steps they needed to make to build a new stadium, and we're trying to ride out a 20-year-old stadium. We've got to do the same thing here. And you got to
It-
remember as well, the Paycom Center was never built to be an NBA arena. That's not what it was made for. It was made to be an all-purpose event type center. We just got lucky enough to stumble into an NBA team. Now it's time to take it to the next level. And by the way, if you do, you're going to get concerts that you've never gotten. You're going to get events that you've never gotten because
Well,
it's an
it's
arena that's made for that.
look. Here. I'm going to put it into a different perspective for those. Here's how you sell it to people that aren't sports people that don't care about basketball or football or whatever. Remember what downtown Oklahoma City was before the Thunder came? Like it was growing, but it was like, Bricktown was Bricktown, and you know what I mean? There wasn't much outside of that. It was just wasn't the same. Now you've got the Thunder have brought so much growth to that area and so many eyeballs on that area that it's so much bigger. It's grown so much since how long, what was it? What year did they come here? Like 2007, 6?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember the exact year, but it's in that range. Yes.
Yeah, either way, you know what I mean? Like the Hornets were here. It's grown so much. The impact on Oklahoma City is so huge. Yes. So even though I don't live there, please vote yes. It's
2008. 2008.
Yeah, there you go. So that's what I'm saying. You look at that and you go, think about what it was then. I mean, I know that was a long time ago, but it's like it is absolutely different. And I literally could not point to anything more than the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, 100%. So support it and get it going. It's good stuff. So and I will say too, I watched a little bit of OU basketball the other night. No juggernaut, but there's athletes. There are
Yeah.
definitely athletes on the floor, and it could
But
be a fun year to watch them as well. So we'll start talking about that a little bit more as the season gets real and they're not playing, A&M, Popcorn State from wherever to kick off the season, and really playing some opponents. They look good thus far. So, anyways, that's all I got. You got anything else?
that's it. F1 Grand Prix in Las Vegas is this weekend. I thought it was last weekend. It's this weekend. So excited for that. Even talked to our dad, and our dad's like, our dad's a big Vegas guy. So he's like, yeah, I'll probably watch it. So
It was
but
cool seeing the shots last night from the football game and the track being all set up and lit up and
yeah,
stuff. Like,
he was telling me, and so like one thing that's I guess there's been people that have been mad in Vegas because like they built like these grandstands and all these things for the race, and apparently it's blocking some of the views and making it really hard to get around and stuff like that, which I mean, it's a big event. I don't know. I can understand, I guess, both sides of that argument. But apparently there's also been rumors. My like dad apparently knew about this before me about there's been activists that had gone around to races all over the world. One of them literally got hit by a car because they decided to run out on the track during like it was like a practice session or something, but the cars were going full speed and they had to flag it, and he ran out on the deal so quick that it didn't hit like run him over, but it like clipped him kind of. But yeah, it's like apparently there's some activists that are planning to protest at the thing, and who knows? It'll be a circus whether there's that or not because it's Vegas. But yeah,
no
man,
doubt.
I'm hyped for it. So
That's awesome. That is awesome. It should be cool to see, and it's wild to think about, like you said, just F1 racing, Grand Prix racing going down the
the strip.
strip is just nuts to think about and to process, but it should be really, really cool. So, anyways, well, that's all we got tonight, man. This was a fun, good vibes podcast tonight. Good vibes podcast after a 59-20 win. Let's hope they keep it rolling. So this was a fun one. We're having a great time. We hope you are too. I'm Daryl. That's Jared, and we will talk to you guys later.
Night Baker.